All right, ladies and gents, I've got Neil Smith here today. He is the founder of a men's health app called Metal, and used to be a TV producer as well, if that's right. Neil, have I got that right?
Yeah, that's right, Martin. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm the founder of Metal, men's mental fitness app.
Yep.
For those who can see it, I got my t-shirt on, always branding, eh? Metal, Metle. So
That's the
metal
way.
is, a test of, metal means kind of resilience and, your spirit, a test of what you can get through in the tough times, I guess. And that's kind of, what we're trying to help them with. Yeah, my background is TV. So I was a TV exec for many years. I ended up running some of the biggest production companies in the UK. First one I ran, we made shows like The Undateables. You might go.
Yeah, I remember that vaguely.
Then,
Yeah.
did incredibly well, actually. Ran for 20 seasons, sold all over the world. Netflix made their own version called Love on the Spectrum, which your listeners in the States might have seen. But I also did a lot of work with Bear Grylls, who's my co-founder on Metal. So, Bear, I remember right at the start, he was interested in mental fitness. So he would always say, it's not what's in here that's going to get you through the tough times, pointing at his biceps. It's up here. What's in your head?
100%.
And, so when I started Metal, he was the perfect companion for it. He's the perfect co-founder. He's my co-founder in it. But yeah, I went on to run the company that made The Apprentice and Grand Designs and Escape to the Country and Great Railway Journeys and sold some shows to Netflix and stuff. And yeah, I loved it. I had a brilliant career. But sort of, effectively, I think I got to the top of my career and had a bit of a midlife crisis. Thought, okay, I've got to do something with my skills now. I've got to sort of put them to good use. And the thing that I really wanted to crack, I guess, or to kind of have a go at was the male mental health crisis, something that had affected me personally. But equally, I was out there using all these mental fitness tools and seeing that a lot of men weren't getting them. So I kind of thought, okay, well, how could we do that?
Talk us through your challenges, man. And was it anything? Was there any moments that you thought, man, I got to do something about this, or what is it you struggle with? If you don't mind sharing?
So basically, I've got a condition of the nervous system called benign intention tremor. I think it's like an essential tremor, basically. Like it's a chronic shaking condition. And I had it from being a kid. And when I was like 11 years old, my hands would shake so badly that I couldn't get a teaspoon of sugar into a cup of tea. Like it was really tough. And, growing up as a kid in High Wycombe, it was, not a great look. And my uncle also has the condition, and it's hereditary. And he'd gone to try and find any support for it, and found like a doctor who said, well, there's no cure or any known treatment for the condition, but there's this thing called meditation we've heard of, which might help. And so he prescribed us meditation tapes. So I started listening to these meditation tapes, 30, 60 minutes a day, started meditating, and it completely transformed my condition. Yeah. So I've got no visible symptoms of that chronic condition anymore. And it really kind of changed my life in a big way. So that's kind of when I first got into meditation, saw the power of meditation over the mind. And as we all realize more now, there's a big connection between the mind and the body, obviously, which you talk about, which perhaps was less known back then. But, so I studied meditation all over the world. I spent a lot of time in India studying it. I got really, really into it. I've always been rubbish at it. So I've got ADHD. So I find it really hard to sit for long periods of time. That's why at Metal kind of, we have meditation on the app, but we try and keep it like really short and punchy. The guy who does it, funnily enough, lives up the road from you.
Oh, really?
Kerike, yeah, you should touch base
with him.
Okay,
yeah, of course. Yeah, Steve was saying about him, actually.
Yeah, he's bloody
Where did you live? Is he in Sydney then? Or is he?
Yeah. He's in... not Coogee, but I think one of the ones up.
Eastern suburb.
Maroubra,
yeah. Okay, I'll have to link up with him then.
Yeah. Yeah, he's on the beach there. He's a great guy. But anyway, later on I got into breathwork. So that's a really good way to transform your physiological state. But I think the thing that, in terms of the big why for me was, as well as the kind of meditation thing, was in my 20s, I had depression. And, like a lot of men, I just didn't tell anybody about it. Yeah, so I was doing really well in my career, and socially I seemed fine. Struggled with kind of close relationships, and in private I was really struggling. Yeah, and I was not in a good way, but I just couldn't find the strength to tell anyone about it. So, for example, my best mate who I was hanging out with for the whole of my 20s found out when he read about it in a newspaper article about metal that was in the Times. He's like, what? I didn't know this. I'm like, yeah, sorry, mate. Just, didn't know how to tell anyone. And then more recently, so that was quite a while ago. And then more recently, I realized that, we've got a male mental health crisis where suicide is the biggest killer of men under 50. And when you think about that, it's like, what? That's insane. So it's not cancer, it's not heart disease, it's suicide.
It's insane.
It's madness. Sadly, myself and most of my friends will know somebody and know a man who's taken his own life, and it's normally a surprise to everybody around him, which tells you that he hadn't spoken about it. And so there's a lot of messaging, and the charities are kind of messaging correctly. Men need to talk. They need to open up. They need to talk more. And it's totally correct messaging. But having been the guy who couldn't talk, you could tell me to talk all you want, but I'm not going to. Yeah, I have a real deep affinity with that issue of men not being able to talk, about their mental health. So I thought, okay, look, that is the right message. But what I've learned from TV is that you have to kind of meet people where they're at, not where you want them to be. So let's take that show, The Undateables, I mentioned. That's a show about disability. Now, if we'd have wanted to kind of say, if we wanted to raise awareness around disability, which we did, about how disabled people, we're all the same underneath. Yeah. We all want to find love. We all want to have relationships. We wanted to kind of smash a lot of stigma around disability. Now, if we'd have made a documentary about disability, a couple 100,000 people would have watched it. Wouldn't have changed the dial. But we made a dating show. Dating's the biggest genre in the world. That show ran for 20 seasons, got sold all over the world, remade everywhere from France to Ukraine, remade by Netflix, etc., etc. And in doing so, reached over 100 million viewers and changed people's perceptions. Yeah. So, but we met people where they're at, which is watching primetime dating shows. Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, look, could I do something similar here? If men aren't talking about their mental health, can I give them a toolkit based on the things that I use on a daily basis, which are meditation, breathwork, and kind of self-hypnosis, visualization, NLP, that meets them where they're at? Where are they? Well, they're not talking on their phones. So let's create an app that doesn't require them to talk in the first instance, so they can use it in private, but hopefully it will actually break down stigmas, get them used to looking after their mental health. And we run men's groups and stuff. And so we do help men talk, but that first step is just meeting them where they are. Metal, the whole idea of metal is just giving men a really, really simple toolkit that is based on meditation, breathwork, self-hypnosis, but really need state based. So, I want to feel more confident and more focused, more energy, but I want to help with anxiety or stress and sleep. So, we looked at that market and, you could argue, well, that's a really saturated market. You got Calm and Headspace out there and all that sort of stuff. But there was nothing out there for men. What we knew that the biggest barrier, the reason men don't want to talk about their mental health, so we're like, well, why don't men want to talk about their mental health? Well, it's stigma. There's a stigma around it. There's a shame around it. So in order to get them tools that can help them, you've got to break past that stigma, which is why we built something that's just for men. So our content is all designed from the ground up for men by the best coaches in the world. We got Chibs there. We got Paul McKenna. We got Dr. Alex George, who's another co-founder, Bear Grylls, all science backed, with the first ever digital men's mental health product to be verified by the NHS. So we went around about it in the right way in order to build something that would build stigma and build a brand. That's why I always wear my t-shirts and stuff, and so do other kind of metal fans that men feel good about coming to and using, so because it's really important that you meet people where they are and you overcome that stigma. Otherwise, you cannot expect people to engage. And so I tried to use all those lessons that I'd learned in TV and bring them to bear in this mental fitness space.
And that's a big challenge that I had in my 20s as well. I actually went through depression as well for about maybe 18 months to 2 years in my early 20s. And even then, this is going back, 15 years ago almost now, and didn't talk about it, But looking back at what I was fortunate, and what you're doing is amazing, right? Again, meeting them where they're at, so powerful, those things, right? Breathwork, meditation.
Yeah.
Even when you're in that state, to do anything, right, is tough.
Yeah.
So you hit the nail on the head there with the men's group as well, right? Having like-minded men who you trust, who you can communicate with as well. I was fortunate. I had really close with my mother. So fortunately, I could talk to her about the stuff I was struggling with. I had some CBT and stuff, cognitive behavioral therapy, which helped as well. But it was a battle, man. I was on the verge of, taking antidepressants. Yeah. And, when I look back, I remember Mum saying to me at the time, you'll look back on this and you'll you'll laugh about this. You know what I mean? Not laugh, but you'll kind of look back and go,
Yeah,
Eddie,
yeah,
those thoughts were silly. You know what I mean? But at the time, I couldn't believe it, Neil.
yeah, yeah.
And even when I talk about it now, it kind of makes me a bit emotional, right? Because at the time, I was like, nah, I was saying, yeah, trying and keep her, you know what I mean, from worrying. But I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. But eventually, I got through it, and I was lucky because I had fitness. Going back to what you guys are doing, right? I was very lucky because that's what I've always done. So even then, it was just what I do, right? I was PTing people in the gym. I was in the gym all the time. I lift weights. It's just what I do. And then I would go for runs and stuff. And then I was fortunate. It just all happened that I met guys from the gym who were like-minded. I kind of broken ties with my friends from school at that point. So when I look back, I wasn't aware, but it was the loneliness thing, right? Not having a tribe. And then I started finding guys who I'm still, two of them and a few of them now, are still my close friends now. But just like you said then, I didn't speak to them about it. I didn't, because even then it was stigma. So I didn't say anything at all. But just by them being there, and it's like British humor, right, Neil? Good old British humor, just taking the piss out of each other all the time.
Taking the piss.
It goes a long way, man. It helped me to not take myself so seriously, you know what I mean? But they didn't even know at the time, man. It's like even now, like you said, I spoke to a few of them, they're like, I didn't even know that. That's crazy,
So just to touch on that kind of subject, about tribes and finding your tribe, finding the others, speaking to people, something that we've noticed, which is sort of, in a way, is that British, and I'm sure it's the same in the States or definitely in Australia, is that banter can also backfire. So, nowadays, what I've noticed is, so WhatsApp, for example, means that we can all communicate with our mates all the time. Like we'll be on these groups and, I'm certainly in groups where there's a lot of banter.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that men can become more isolated because of it. Because if all their male relationships are based in these WhatsApp groups, and the allowable form of communication, the rules of that group are banter and having a laugh and taking a piss, then their ability to communicate when they're in trouble might be shut down. Do you see what I mean? Because they don't think, okay, well, I can't share in here what I'm going through because, that's not the rules of the game. Yeah.
And let's be honest, it's kind of the vulnerability thing, right? It's a thing we have
I'm not
hardwired
going to be
into us.
vulnerable. I'm not going to be vulnerable in there because I'll just get shut down. But what that WhatsApp thing has done is, because that's become the form of communication, it doesn't mean you can pick up the phone to your mate and talk to him. Or, men are less likely to do this. We know this. They're less likely to do that now. Yeah. And sadly, so it's harder for them, not easier in a world of more communication, or it can be harder for them to communicate properly on a deep level, when they're in trouble. And which is why part of the reason we're seeing the suicide rates going off. So we've got a crisis like never before. And a lot of that is to do with social media. Some of it's to do with body image, actually, which, maybe we should.
Yeah, 100%. We can get into that. That's a big crisis.
Male body image is a big thing, for the younger generation. And for the older generation, it's not being part of a tribe. It's not being able to talk to anyone. It's literally that. And, one of the things, sadly, a friend, one of my best mates, one of his best mates, took his own life in Australia, actually. I won't say how, but even while he was doing it, he was bantering on his WhatsApp group with his mates. I mean, even at that point, he couldn't break out of those rules. And I think what men's groups do, is they take men, just to talk about finding your tribe, because I think it's a really important thing that can help all men. It's not so
100%.
unspelling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's really powerful. Or that we do have our own men's group, but like there's loads of them around the world, all springing up. What they do is they offer different rules, different containers. So I'm on a WhatsApp group, which is a men's group, and every day we share how we're feeling, and in fact, I've just got to put something on there today, so I'm going to make a note. I've got terrible ADHD
I'm the same. I think I've probably got something going on myself, man. I'm the same. I got this.
I'm just terrible.
I'm the same as well. I forget. I do that all the time, my man. I'm like, okay, if I'm speaking to a client, I just go just 2 seconds. Let me just write this down.
Yeah. Good for you, man. I'm glad I'm not alone. But so by creating a safe container, so our WhatsApp group, the rules of engagement are not banter. In fact, we discourage banter on that particular group because we encourage checking in. Yeah. Now that WhatsApp group can have the same people as in another WhatsApp group. I'm a man who's in that group, and I'm in group where we banter all the time, and some of the mates in my banter group can be in those groups. But when you change the rules and you say this WhatsApp group or this container or this men's group, the rules are we're here to support each other and ask how each other is and what's going on in each other's lives, then that is transformative. And I think that's why we're seeing this massive upsurge in kind of men's groups, because that is the way to kind of break the stigma and to kind of, to get men to talk by giving them permission. You can't just tell them. You got to give them the permission, the container to do it. Do you know what I mean?
And like you say, you got to, like with men, we're kind of like a bit more black and white, I think, than women generally, right? You give us the rules. People we respect in a group is big for men, right? People you respect, maybe admire as well. People you look up to. Doesn't always have to be that, but if you've got a few leaders there, right? That changes everything. This is the rules, right? We're all going to share how we feel, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to connect that way. But, banter, because the thing is, we always take it too far as men as well, right? Especially the UK banter. It's like we start, we just go all in, right? And then it just takes away the, which is, there's some value to it at times, right?
There is.
There is, but you need to be black and white with it, though, right? Because we'll just escape our problems with banter. Then the example you were using then is a prime example, Yeah,
I mean,
in Australia, which is horrendous.
It was horrific because his mates were like, "Well, wait a minute, he didn't tell us," and he was literally, involved in banter. Like it's not appropriate to talk about how people committed to their own life, in public, but while he was doing that process, he was still doing that, and that's
horrendous.
I mean, that just told me everything I need to know. Really, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you're right. There is a time and a place, but we need other forms of communication now. And it is different for men and women, because some people say, well, men and women, we're all the same, and it's like, well, no, actually, the science and the research proves that we're not
at all, actually.
No, at all. I mean, biologically, we're not.
Yeah,
but also, like, as emotional and psychological beings, we're completely different. And so with women's mental health, we've got a crisis in male mental health. Yeah, like, it is kind of like men take their own lives 3 times more. Or, it's about 80-20, I think it is, 80% men to 20% women, the suicide rates in the UK. But they'll also suffer in silence. So the difference is they don't tell anyone. So men don't communicate. With women, the studies show that actually they will communicate. If they do take their own lives, then they'll have spoken to about it pretty much all the time before that happens, whereas men don't. So it's a very different thing. Why is that? Well, women are better communicators on emotional level. Yeah, we've been taught over millennia since cavemen to be tough and, to go out and provide, and whereas women have been nurturers, because they would be the ones building the families, and, that's the way it's been. And it's very hard to change that, by just telling people. So you've got to provide these containers. Like it made me laugh. So that guy I was talking about, my mate who read about my depression in the paper, I remember like going out with him, went out with him one night, went out in Soho in London. The next morning, see my wife, and she asks, "Oh, how's Sarah and the kids? You were out with Pierre last night. How's Sarah and the kids?" Referring to his wife and kids. I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. It didn't come up." You're out with him last night. Like, didn't ask about his family and his wife. He just didn't come up. And to her, she just couldn't believe that. Do you see what I mean? Like, when I see her talk to her friends, she'll talk to them on a regular basis and have proper conversations on a daily 100%. Basis.
And that's something I want to touch on today as well, Neil, is women generally are more social creatures, right? They don't show. Yeah. There's actually research to say now as men, I don't know if you've seen this stat, but even when men get older, right? Married men in particular, actually, when they get older, I'm not sure the difference between, I would imagine it's even worse in terms of the loneliness if you're not married, but even married men, they actually end up isolated unless they have, say 2 close friends that they're intentional. I think that's the big word there, right? For men, a lot of the times, that's why it's so good about your app, right? Which we'll get into, having that group, having that support system, because then you're in it all the time, right? So you can build those relationships, but they've got to be in person. But if you're not intentional about it as a guy, because I'm a sucker for this. This is a big thing that I struggle with, Neil, right? Because entrepreneur, work a lot, right? And I'll put stuff off, right? Until it's like, man, I haven't seen my mate for like 2 months. Like, what are you doing? This is not good for you, but you can just kind of crack on, but you need to be intentional about that as a man, whereas women tend to do it more naturally, Speaking of mental and physical health, I wanted to offer you a free metabolic assessment. Now, this assessment gives you a score which tells you the best path to take to get the fastest most sustainable results possible with your physique and your specific body type. Now, everyone's body is different, but this is going to give you a specific plan, and it's absolutely free. So if you're looking to lose fat, build muscle, or both, all you got to do is click the link beneath in the show notes to get your assessment for free. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
They just do. Yeah, like it happens for them, and for men, we need to put the work in. I mean, like, that's just not generalizing. That is statistic. That is the statistics. Yeah. So, for example, there's lots of statistics around, you know, when men leave relationships, like if there's a marriage breakup, then they do worse than women. Yeah, afterwards, because they've got less friendship groups. They've failed to maintain their friendship groups and stuff. You know, in old age, loneliness is a much bigger problem for men than for women, because women are better at maintaining friendships. Yeah. Now, the way that plays out is it has an effect on life expectancy. Yeah. So the research now shows that actually loneliness is the biggest killer of all, bigger than
100%.
smoking. Yeah.
Yeah, 15. It's like smoking 15 cigarettes a day or something like that.
That's
having relationships which are bad, unhealthy relationships with other people as well. If you've got, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So if you think, you know, there's a big longevity craze at the moment, you know, men out there trying to improve their resting heart rate by, you know, 1 beat per minute or whatever it is.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
that. But actually, the thing that's going to be most useful for them to live longer, if that's what they want to do, is to maintain friendships. That's the single most useful thing you can do. So, I mean,
100%.
when you think about that, and that science that's coming through, that's unbelievable. Like, you know, I spend a lot of time in Spain. I'm lucky enough to have a home in Spain, and I get out there quite a bit. And, you know, the Spanish are like one of the longest lived nations on earth. I think they were, you know, they live longer than anybody else pretty much. But you look at their lifestyle, you wouldn't think it, because they're always out there eating massive meals and staying
100%.
up.
Going to bed late.
Drinking. Their mates. That's all they seem to do.
100%. They're social creatures, and they got most of the time they got strong family connections as well, haven't they?
100%. It's the most important thing to them, and so they live the longest. Like when I was filming out in Spain once, I was filming in this village on top of a mountain, just a really kind of rural village. Got loads of EU money, and they built an old people's home. Yeah, with the EU money. It's the EU money, so you got a lot of old people living there. Here's some money, build an old people's home. So they built this home, and it was full of building materials. I'm like, why is that? It's like, well, we're not going to put the old people in it, but we took the money in order somewhere to store our building materials. Or our old people are in the community being looked after by their families and their friends. Why would we put them in there?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. But with that as well, right? So in terms of men and connections and making sure, because the average man, I think it's the average person, I think that relates to both, but more so men, they haven't got one close friend to turn to in times of a crisis, right? So it's more so men, but believe it is just people in general now, right? It's a loneliness epidemic.
But it's a male thing.
It's a male thing, right? Okay, it is a male thing. So, you know, you haven't got one
predominantly. Of course, there's going to be women
exactly. Less likely. Yeah, because if you haven't got no one to turn to in times of crisis, right, this is a big issue. And also, going back to talking about it, right, it turns out the worst thing you can do, right, Neil, is not talk about your problem. It just manifests and gets worse and worse, right? So what would you say, what kind of advice would you give to any guy who's kind of speaking to this now who, you know, I know it's tough for us to give broad advice, and there's so many different variables, right, in terms of depression, mental health and stuff. What would you say to someone as a first step, as someone who's listening now and go, man, I'm struggling, but I haven't told anyone. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, there's two things, Like, if you are really struggling and, you know, you have suicidal ideation, then no matter how hard it is, you should try everything you can to see a professional. Yeah. Like, to get professional help. Yeah. Like, the first steps for that can be, you know, calling a helpline, of which there's many, you know, like in the UK and abroad, you know, America, which will be anonymous. So if you think that a lot of the stigma, you know, this is partly why we're seeing an uptick in AI therapy and people talking to ChatGPTs, because it's totally anonymous. A lot of the thing that men don't want to do is they don't want to be vulnerable in front of other people. But if you're just phoning for help, and those are anonymous calls or whatever it might be, then, you know, if you're in danger, you need to seek immediate help, is what I would say. Number one.
Yeah.
Now, if you are, and that's hard. Yeah, it is hard.
It is. That's the hardest step.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend it isn't. are hard because, you know, I was the guy who couldn't do it. So,
Yeah, same.
but that's what you should do. Yeah. A lot of men have partners, you know, you should speak to them. They should speak to them more practically, and I guess an easier way in, because I've said, you know, for some men it's incredible. It's really, really hard to do that, and you know, I've referenced those guys, you know, and that WhatsApp guy is a prime example. I would say look for a group. So what's happening is that alongside this massive rise in male mental health crisis, we've got a massive rise in men's groups. Yeah, so which are specific kind of support groups for men. Yeah, which provide men with friendship containers. Yeah, and to create valuable relationships. So one of the coaches I know who does a lot of work in men's group, a guy called Ben Davies, great guy, moved down to Devon recently from London, realised that there was loads of isolated men there, you know, that, you know, out sort of a bit more rural and who didn't have proper friendships and were struggling. And so he created a friendship club, you know, invested friends, it's called. And, you know, and the agreement is, you know, that these guys meet and they share their skills or whatever. So, you know, one of them did a barbecue, one of them did a martial arts kind of demonstration, or maybe they just get up, you know, and go for a walk on the beach or walk their dogs. But it's creating, you know, there's a lot of people out there creating special containers. Is what I talked about. It's about the rules of engagement as well as the engagement, because a man with lots of friends who can't talk to them could be in just as much trouble, as I referenced, as a man without any friends, potentially. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Is the rules. Yeah, the rules of engagement, that you can talk to people. And the best way that I have seen of doing that is to join one of the many men's groups that you can find anywhere in the world now. Yeah, it doesn't have to be in person. It could be online. You know, there's loads. And this man club is brilliant. They're doing a brilliant job in the UK of reaching really hard to reach groups. You know, loads of men's groups. So I would say, you know, that provides friendship. It not only a place where you can get support, but it provides kind of real value, really value-based friendships. And those relationships form really quickly. Because I'm in a couple of them, and you join those groups, and suddenly you've got such respect for those men because they're being really vulnerable with you.
100%.
So you build rapport and respect really quickly.
Having fun and just solving problems together as men, and it's something we need.
Absolutely.
A fundamental need, right? We're the hunters, right? As much as you want to say, okay, that's your evolution, that's kind of how we're programmed, right?
It's our evolution, mate. Yeah. And actually, there's a really good example in Australia for slightly older men, which is called men's sheds. Have you ever heard of the men's sheds?
I don't think I've heard of that. No.
It's an Australian movement. Yeah. And as I was saying, what they found was like older men, so men whose relationship was broken up or their wife had died or whatever, the partner had died, really struggled. You know, as I mentioned earlier, they're the worst at risk from loneliness. And they set up these communities where they have like a shed effectively, and these men meet and they do skills together. So they fix things or just hang out. It's had an incredible transformation effect on the men who take part in it. You know, I remember actually finding out Age UK in the UK, they had a big problem with men whose wives would die. Certain generation, you know, older generation to me and to your generation, it's like, who couldn't cook because their wives did all the cooking. They went out to work for their lives and the wives stayed at home and cooked. Yeah. And the wives passed away and these guys couldn't look after themselves. So they formed a cooking group for men. But what they realized was that these men then started living longer because they had these incredible friendship groups formed by the cooking. I actually pitched a TV format around it, actually, because they had a competition, you know. And I pitched a TV format and we called it One Foot in the Gravy, which I thought was
nice. I like that. It was
a great title. Sadly, it didn't get commissioned.
Victor Meldrew, yeah, that was old school.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember that?
One Foot in the Gravy.
1 foot in the gravy, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just about purpose-built containers for men are out there. You know, if you're feeling like you're lacking in friendship or you're struggling, you know, if you're really struggling with mental health, you should always see a professional. I mean, that is, you know.
100%.
Also, you can use apps like ours. I mean, like, you know, what we found is that men who have been struggling have really benefited from it. You know, so look, it's a mental fitness app. It's got meditation, breathwork, self-hypnosis on there from, as I say, the world's best coaches, but it's all built for men. So short chunks. It's all kind of, as I say, designed with Imperial College. My head of content is the former head of content at Calm, brings the meditation app, brings a lot of knowledge from there about what works for men. So it works for men, and it's not a replacement for talking and being in a community. But what it does do is give you some tools that you can use every day when you're going through a tough spot and help build
100%.
resilience. And
My
we've had guys
oh, go
who
on.
said, this has changed my life.
100%. Well, Steve being one of them, right? Like
Steve
he
is
was,
one of them.
from what he was saying about, I knew he was always talking about, even when he joined the program. But then when he actually opened up on the podcast about it, I was like, I couldn't believe it. But my friend, going back to having someone close to you can turn to, I've got a close friend here, and I've had a few issues and stuff, and having someone where it's like you're at that point, not like where I've had any issues, major issues, but for example, I went through a breakup before, right? And it was tough. And then I was like, what am I going to do here? Da-da-da. Someone to just speak to like that, right? Goes a long way. But that same guy, he's on a mission like yourself. He's created an app. It's called Good Men Helping Good Men. Bit of a mouthful, right? But he's created an app, and his is obviously different to yours. But I actually have started using it. We've been testing it out. It's new. And it's just having that. They've got a group and you can connect with different men and area, all that kind of stuff as well. But also it's habits. And it's like, for example, you've got like 5 fulfillments, 5 pillars. Yeah. And you basically fill out your score and it's out of 100, for example, like community being one of them, inner work, health and fitness. And then it scores you. And then whatever areas you're like lowest in, you can set habits then each week, for example, right? So like one of mine this week was like writing a letter to my old self, right? So I was struggling with gratitude, journaling, meditation, those kind of things, and breathwork. But I do want to get into Metal App. Let's get into it, man. Talk us through some of the benefits and some of the kind of, I don't know, results that you've had with men or testimonials or whatever, and what people, again, what are people finding the most valuable about the app?
Yeah. So, look, I wanted to create something that was just really easy toolkit for men to use on a daily basis. Because the best thing you can do, for me anyway, for my mental health, look, you want to be physically fit, you want to be eating right, you want to have friendships, all of those things are really important. But there's also things that you can build into like a morning routine that can really help. So for me, it's getting up in the morning. When I get up in the morning, I'm an entrepreneur like you. Yeah, it's bloody stressful. So first thing, 100%. I'm like, oh God, I got to do this, that, and the other,
Yeah, 100%.
And then I pick up my Metal app, Mettle, that is,
Mettle, right? Yeah. Show them the logo one more time, just so they know, my man.
Let's spell it now. And what we've got is, I use the dailies. So basically how we built it is we said to men, look, what are the things you most want help with? Yeah. And the 7 answers that came back were confidence, focus, energy, anxiety, stress, sleep, and happiness. Yeah. So we built all our content around those 7 pillars. Yeah. So we've got meditation from Shibzo Kereke. He's like the world's leading male mental health coach, stress and burnout expert. He's brilliant. And, the way he approaches it is like, look, don't come to get better at meditation. That's not what this is about. It's getting better at life. Yeah. Meditation is just one of the tools that's going to get you there. Yeah. And that's what we're providing. Yeah. So he's kind of like, his 28-day meditation challenge is like, guys, I'm going to teach you a new superpower. It's meditation. Look, I know what you're thinking. You're going to ask me to give up deodorant and grow a man bun. But I'm telling you, it's not like that. Yeah? I mean, the world's top athletes use, to perform at their best, but it's also something that can help you on a daily basis. But the way we approach it is really powerful and has worked for a lot of men who wouldn't otherwise use these tools. So basically, we got about over 800 pieces of content there, all bespoke, built from the ground up, all around these need states. Yeah. So we've got Chibs, who's the best meditation coach in the world, Jamie Clements, who's easily one of the best young breathwork coaches in the world. He's got brilliant content on there because breathwork can really help just switch your physiological state really, really quickly. It's just magic. But actually, one of the best things about it isn't magic. It's just science. So for 100%. Men who don't want that kind of hippie feel, bit woo-woo stuff, that might put them off some of this area. Ours is totally science-backed. Like, you can give a 90-second breath work to anybody in the world, no matter what their beliefs are, and get them to do it, and their physiological state will be scientifically different, as you will know as an athlete.
100%.
So we use breath work really in a powerful way to help you, get into different states and take on different challenges. We also, our other kind of co-founder, if you like, is Paul McKenna, who's the world's most successful scientist, who's written loads of books that have helped people overcome challenges. We got great challenges from him, that can really shift your mindset. So mind reprogramming and stuff. So we've got this amazing toolkit, which is just so easy to use. And like, you can spend time just like really exploring the app and all the challenges and stuff. Or if you're a bit lazy like me, you can just get up every day, go to the home screen, the today screen, and, there you'll find, we put on these dailies. Yep. So, we got daily mind fuel, which will be like a piece of kind of inspirational content from Bear Grylls or Alex George or one of our other coaches. And then we have a daily boost, which is just a 3-minute meditation or breath work that changes every day. So you don't need to think, but it really puts you in a good place. So that's with Chibs. And
that's good because that's short as well, right? It feels achievable, doesn't it? It was like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Give it to 3 minutes, my man. You know what I mean?
Just 3 minutes.
Yeah.
The daily mind fuels are like 90 seconds. Those boosts are 3 minutes. Yeah. And then I've got a challenge that I'm running in. You can check in with we got like a bit of AI that you can check in with, saying how you're feeling. That changes every day. And that will also suggest you a bit of quick content. So we've got all these quick hits as well as all these big challenges. So the challenges can take 7 days or 28 days for our big meditation challenge with Chibs. But most people really love the daily content because this is quick and simple to use. And the science shows that men don't want to stick around for ages. Yeah, nor do I. I've got ADHD. I want to get it done. Just quickly change mistake, get on with the day. But it sets you up for the day. And so we've got, what we've learned, as you refer to, is kind of from men. Our testimonials are just, we've got men. This was the whole point. Men felt excluded from the States. I'm talking about from this space, this wellness space. I'm talking about ordinary blokes. Yeah. They saw the space as too female. When we said, what's the stigma around using other apps like Calm and Headspace or whatever, which are great apps, too female, too hippie, there's nothing wrong with me. Only those 3 objections came back. So we've got to build something that breaks down that stigma. Yeah. Because if that stigma's there, men feel vulnerable, they won't use it. So they don't use things because they see that space as for women. Yeah.
Yep.
And we're just for men. And the science shows that works better anyway. Or they see it as too hippie. So we're completely science-based. And we got Bear Grylls there as the front man, a man who people respect. But they don't want to be stigmatized by us saying there's something wrong with them. Well, we're not. We're talking about mental fitness, just giving you the tools to look after yourself on a daily basis. And so what we're seeing is people regularly use it and it puts them in a great place on a daily basis. But also, and this is kind of crucial, we have seen a number of men who've been in trouble, and it's really helped them get through tough times. So people going through relationship breakups or financial troubles, or, we got one guy who's happy for us to talk about it, but, he's had a very he's a young guy, 35 years old, has had penile cancer. That's a very emasculating and horrible cancer to have. Yeah. And he's also had some, like a loss of a child. And he's talked about it publicly in relation with metal as well. So it's okay for me to say that. He's had a horrific time, and he credits metal with getting him through it because he's used all the tools and it's put him in an amazing place. And he talks about that publicly. So what we've had is these people coming and saying, well, publicly, like Stephen did, like your guest did, this app has helped me through some really, really tough times when men might otherwise not know where to turn. And, I'm not saying it's something that you use in isolation. You should be doing all these things, but it has been more powerful, I think, than we could ever have imagined.
And I'm glad that's incredible, man. That's really, really good. I love that. And I was going to say about the breathwork thing as well, though, right? Because even 5 minutes of breathwork, when you do it intentionally, like box breathing, for example, it can be better than 20 minutes of meditation if you do it right. You know what I mean? So meditation is obviously really important too, but you can do those small 5-minute blocks. If you're consistent with it, it makes all the difference. I think one of the big things as well, I need to be more consistent with this, by the way, Neil, my breathwork, that's something I'm really working on. It teaches you how to get out of the state, right? Because every day or most days, let's be honest, we all get overwhelmed. We all get anxious. We all get all these kind of things, procrastinate, whatever it is. It just teaches you to get back into to change your state and then focus on your breathing, and then you naturally feel your heart rate has to slow down, right? When you take deep breaths, it's just it has no choice. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. It's completely science-based. You can't beat it in a way. I mean, you can't game it. You can't say, like, if you do these exercises, your physiology responds because you're a human. Yeah. So that's what I love about it. It's just like no dogma. Like you say, okay, I'm up here. Okay, well, we can give you a breath work that will bring you down here. So if your heart rate's up here, we'll give you a breath work that can bring it down. It works for everyone. So it's just really kind of great for men because it's really easy to, and the whole thing's blown up now, isn't it? I mean, it's massive breath work now. But even a few years ago, it seemed like a bit hippie-ish. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
It's the most scientific thing in the world.
Yeah, I know. It's been around for forever for a reason. And it's something you have to do, right? You have to do it. It's involuntary. Exactly. But it's involuntary, isn't it? So that's the thing. People ignore it because it's involuntary. You don't think about it, right? But
Yeah.
even breathing through your nose as opposed to mouth breathing, the research on that is crazy, right?
Yeah, that's
You know
right.
how bad it is for you breathing through your mouth all the time, basically.
Yeah.
So just teaching yourself to be able to take those slow, deep breaths through your nose
Yeah.
is powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess, look, we built the app knowing there was a problem with men, thinking we got some things that could help them on a daily basis. It's worked, but above that, it's helped people in ways that we really couldn't have imagined. And those are the things that kind of sustain us because, running an app is financially painful.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. My mate was just telling me, actually, the same mate I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive. Tech is hard. Yeah. So every day I
100%.
wake up, I'm bloody stressed. Yeah. Because I've got to keep it going. But then I
No
sit
doubt.
down, I do my meditation, I do my breath work. I set some intentions, a bit of visualization, feel better. I feel good. I'm ready to hit the day. Go
Awesome.
and walk the dog, bit of sunlight, bit of fresh air, a bit of
What
exercise.
are people like? What are people like you, Bear Grylls? The guys in there. I know we all have different methods, but it comes down to the fundamentals, right? When you're going through a tough time, I always say to clients, when you're struggling and life's more stressful, that's when our personal standards, all the stuff, the habits that you've implemented, they need to be, more rock solid. They need to be because that's basically
100%.
what keeps you stable, right, and helps you survive those times.
The foundations, your resilience.
Yeah, the foundation.
Resilience. So this is why Bear was so interested in doing this because he's, if you like, the world's biggest spokesperson for resilience. Because what he does is show people how to be resilient in the wild. And he always talks about resilience. And as I say, it's what's up here.
Resilience, mate. Some of the stuff he's eating, man. What was those shows? I used to watch the shows before, man. Like camel balls. I think he ate like camel balls or something like that.
Yeah, horrific.
He's a savage, isn't he?
He's resilient. Bear is resilient.
I think he's literally the prime example of resilience, isn't he?
Yeah, he really is. But he lives it. You know what I mean? Like, that guy looks after himself.
For sure.
Yeah. Sorry, but what was your question? Sorry.
No, just saying, like guys like Bear Grylls, yourself, Dr. Alex, Dr. Alex Jordan. What do you guys do? Like, I'm just curious to know what you guys do to stay on top of things as well yourselves, right? Do you have any methods with the breathwork, with the meditation, with like communicating with friends when you want to keep on top of that anyway, but when you go through tough times?
Yeah. So basically, I'd say I'm going through a tough time at the moment running this app. It's hard.
100%. Super stressful.
My family, a lot of stress because they're not in the same financial position as, I put my money into this rather than being previously my wife was married to a wealthy TV exec. She isn't anymore. She's married to an impoverished tech founder. Do you know that? All entrepreneurs go through that. And that's hard.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah. But the way it's going, obviously you're going to be good.
That's the reality of it. Yeah. And I want to do it, because I believe in it. It's I'm sort of say sometimes, I'm on a mission from God, just in the Blues Brothers sense. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of like, I'm forced to do something bigger than myself, and that's what I'm doing. But, for me, and I think this is what metal really helps with, I know it does because this is what men have told us, it gives you a foundation. So if you just start building a habit. So number one is building habits, and you'll know about this, Martin.
Yeah, 100%.
Number one, build positive habits. Yeah. And so that
is literally everything. Like you can forget about everything else. People overcomplicate things, but it's like you can only focus on one or two habits at a time, cement that habit in before you move on to the next one, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say
obviously really helps with that, right? Because you're constantly reminded of that habit every single day. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, even there's people out there who can't exercise. Let's take exercise. Yeah. So exercise is really good. And I love to exercise. But, we got people, having cancer ops or recovering from heart surgery. Yeah. They can't exercise. Yeah. Or not to the extent, that they would like to, but they can still do a bit of breath work. They can still do a bit of meditation. They can still do a bit of visualization. Yeah. They can still communicate with friends and loved ones. Yeah. So I think, those fundamentals, so building mental fitness habits and communicating with others, not fighting against loneliness, making sure that you build good relationships, just as we've been talking about the whole time. And that's one thing. I think is really, really, really important. And the other thing is using something like metal, in my case, or other breath work or meditation tools, whatever, to build a morning routine. I think that's the easiest thing to do. So, habit stacking, as they call it. We all wake up in the morning. We all clean our teeth. Most of us probably have a shower.
Yeah.
What if you added just 3 minutes of time to get on an app like Metal and do a bit of breath work? Or a really quick meditation to change it.
And let's be honest, right? Most people are procrastinating and just scrolling on their phone, right?
That's right. Like, it's hard to do. I'm not saying
people are more distracted than ever. Yeah, exactly. But if you have something which is intentional, get the app out, go straight in, rather than scrolling, checking emails. Do that for 5 minutes.
Yeah. So the first thing I do in the morning is I do breath work. Yeah, I do a breath routine first thing. Yeah. And it takes discipline. Yeah. So building habits is not easy. And anybody who tells you it is talking bollocks, I think. And, we recognize that. That's why we try and make these things as easy as possible to use. Do you know what I mean? As quick as possible.
Yeah.
And as effective as possible. But I think, just building you talk about Bear. What does he do? He's got habits. Yeah. His habits are getting up in the morning and exercising, eating well, doing his kind of mental fitness challenges. He loves getting outside, walking barefoot on the earth, but he's religious about it. Yeah. Yeah. And exercising. Yeah. So he's fit and he's healthy. Yeah. And eating well, all those kind of things, but they're all habits. So it's not like I ate well once 3 weeks ago. It's eating well most days, or exercising regularly, or meditating, or doing breath work each morning. Like, I don't do it every morning, actually. The weekends often, slip a bit. Yeah. But I try and do it every weekday morning at least. Yeah. So I've got that habit. And now that habit has become second nature to me. So I'd hate to miss it. And that's what happens with habits. After a while, it takes a while. Like, some people say 30 days, some people say 60. But once it kicks in, you don't want to let it go. So I'll give you an example of that. So one of the inspirations for Metal was, when I was running this big TV company, as for Fremantle, the biggest distributor and the biggest TV company in the world, and they'd send me and other people on the global leadership team, effectively on these global kind of leadership coaching things, and it's brilliant. And one of the things that they sent me on was kind of like an online thing where you would get kind of you had an app and you had to record each day. They give you things to do each day, yeah? And that might be, record a piece of content, or talk to a friend, or, do something work-related, or whatever it might be. And you get points. So you put them in these apps, yeah? And it records your points. And then there's a leaderboard, yeah? And you can see who's getting the most points. Now, at that time, I had gum disease, yeah? So, I had bleeding gums, yeah? And I'd go to and I never floss my teeth, yeah? Never floss my teeth. Bear with me, Martin, it does go.
That's all good.
I couldn't floss my teeth. I hated it, yeah? And I'd go to the hygienist and, she'd clean them up and she'd ball me out. Say, look, actually, you can get heart disease from, gum disease. You could be killing yourself here and your teeth will fall out. You're going to die early unless you start flossing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm giving her loads of excuses. Never did it. Went back 3 months later. She'd have a go at me again. You're risking your life, not just your teeth. And so I had somebody literally telling me that this is going to kill me.
That's what he did to me about it. Yeah.
Nothing to change my behavior. But when I was on this leadership course, one of the things that they asked you to do each morning was to floss your teeth. And the reason for that is because it's for them like a little habit. It starts to form habits, and a little kind of meditation, if you like, as well. And it's good for you. Yeah. So they asked you to floss your teeth, which seemed odd on a leadership course, but I thought, all right. And if you did it, you got 5 points each day that you could put into the app. Since I've done that course, which took about a month, I've flossed my teeth every day, because the thought of me, appearing on the leaderboard was more powerful and motivated than being told by somebody you're going to die.
100%.
So, I mean,
that's another thing with men. Like, we're naturally more competitive, aren't we? Yeah. So if it's gamified, I was just saying on my mate's app as well, because it says, for example, breath work. How many times are you going to do it this week? And I just put 3 in there, right, just to make sure I hit it. And it's like, I got to get all 3 in there. Everyone's watching. And if you fall short, it'll pop up. It'll say, check in with Martin, because he's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, that in there. I've got to step up. You know what I mean?
But it's interesting what causes us as men to form habits. Do you see what I mean? So we can form bad habits, form good habits. So I think, it takes work, habit forming.
Yeah, definitely.
But ultimately, the best thing you can do for yourself is put in a positive habit. Easiest way to do it is to build it into your existing routine, which is called habit stacking. So say, right, 100%. Okay, get up in the morning. I'm going to get up 15 minutes earlier. I'm going to do some metal stuff, and I'm, lift a couple of weights, or whatever 100%. It is, or I'll go and walk the dog. But I'm going to do it every morning, and it's going to set me up for the day. So I'd say that's the number one mental fitness, thing to implement, really.
100%.
What do you think, Martin?
Yeah, 100%. I'm the same. And that's the only way really you can build habits is not by complicating your routine and trying to add loads of different things in there. That's where people fall down. And that's where they fall down with health and fitness and habits as well, because they think, I've got to do all these new things. And it's like, well, no, actually you don't. And actually you can't stick to it long term. And you just said then, in terms of habits, 30 to 60 days, what they found recently is it can take even longer. It can take anywhere between 30 days and 10 months. It depends on the habit, right? To turn a behavior into a long-term habit. And when you think about long-term habits, that's literally becoming part of who you are, right? It's something that you're going to do, like brushing your teeth. It
Yeah.
just becomes part of your subconscious mind. It's something you do. And I
Yeah.
think a big thing we need to talk on as well is like when you notice the benefits, right, Neil? For example, the benefits you have with meditation,
Mm.
doing breath work.
Yeah.
Number one, just doing the thing and following through with your commitment, right? And your promise to yourself builds confidence within itself. Talking about confidence, it's
Yeah.
not that complicated. When you make these mini commitments, if you actually just stick to it, you build confidence. You start having more
Yeah.
belief in yourself, and then you
Yeah.
start feeling way better, don't you, from doing those
Yeah.
habits. And that,
Yeah.
that kind of discipline, have you noticed that, Neil? It becomes enjoyable because you know how much value it adds to your life. You have more
Well, yeah,
energy.
yeah.
Your
Well, it
mental health
becomes
is
easy
better.
once it's a habit.
Becomes easy. Exactly.
Yeah.
Becomes easy and enjoyable.
And also just on that habits kind of thing, when we're talking about, a big theme for us on this discussion has been connection, isn't it? Friendship and being able to talk to your mates
100%.
and all that sort of thing. And friendship and looking at and maintaining your friendships is a habit. It is
Yeah, that's true.
it's something you need to put effort into. Yeah. And those first steps can be quite hard if you want to kind of, reach out to people you haven't seen for a while or rekindle friendships or join a friendship group or a men's group. Yeah. But then it becomes a habit and, you just fall into those habits.
100%. This is something I still struggle with though, right? Because even this week, that same friend I was talking about was like, "Oh, we're going to go and do some." Have you ever heard of pickleball?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like,
they got
it's a bit like paddle. Yeah.
yeah, a bit like paddle. Yeah, I haven't played it before. They got these new racket courts here now, and he's like, "We should go and play." And then we'll both put it off, and we won't do it. And it's like, really, you need the fun. You need to have some level of fun, and
Yeah.
factored into your routine as well. And that's
Yeah.
something I
Yeah.
struggle with. And reaching out to friends, it's
Yeah.
like being an entrepreneur as well. You get this struggle where it's like, I just do. There's always work to do, right? And you've always got it like hanging over your shoulder, right? That scoreboard or whatever it is, right? And the
Yeah.
stuff you got to do. And then you can just put off making those connections with friends. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I think apps like yours and Metal App and stuff, it kind of holds you accountable. Plus, you've got that group there of like-minded men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you can
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
men together like that, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. 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 No, absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. What's next then, man, for Metal? What's next for you guys? I mean, I know you've obviously built the thing and everything else, and I know you're trying to get more people involved now and change more lives.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I mean, the biggest things on our roadmap are, expanding out the community. So at the moment we got men's groups, but they're quite small. They're experimental. It's like, how do we make that bigger? How do we kind of create metal into a global community? Because communities support men. So we're looking into that. And the other thing is, on the tech front, we're kind of looking at building like an AI companion. So when you turn up in the app, it will kind of check in with you, see how you're doing, and really help you get to the content that you need. But also what that companion can do can identify when you need a bit of extra help potentially and take you to that help. It's what you said about kind of reaching out and men find the help that they need in trouble. And I think that's the kind of next step for us. And, we really want to get bigger. We want to push the States a lot more. That's a really important market for us. Talking to employers. We've had people coming through. I was on the phone to an NFL team last night.
Yeah.
Interested
Awesome.
in working with us. Got another one next week. NFL team. Got a big ice hockey team in the States we're speaking to.
Awesome. Well, this is a good little segue. This is a good little entry, hopefully, into the States now, because like I said, to you, most people listening to this, they're in the States. They probably won't. Well, they won't understand my accent. They'll probably understand yours, though, man. You speak a bit clearer than me.
Yeah, but
we'll definitely. So, in terms of, you're looking to obviously scale the community, build that on a bigger global level.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, what was the next thing you were looking to do then?
Build the tech. Build a kind of more intuitive platform, and more, an AI companion, because obviously men are using ChatGPT as a therapist now. Now, if that works, there's a bit of controversy around it, but for some people it's really working. Yeah. But it's important, I think, with our platform, we're not going to try and compete with ChatGPT, but that we use that communication that anonymous communication that men like with ChatGPT in an AI companion that you can check in with on a daily basis that can help you get to the content that you need, when you need it, and also further help. So that might be connecting with therapist groups or men's groups, or, we're looking at a solution for PTSD, a treatment for PTSD, things that we can connect you to when you need it straight away. So it's kind of offering further help, basically. And yeah, that's what we want to do. So we just want to build a community and, we want to be the biggest name for men's mental health, really, because there isn't a brand out there. And we think it's a really important. Brand is important because if there's a lot of solutions out there, which there could be coming down the line with AI and stuff, there could be a lot of stuff that's absolute crap. Well, there is a lot of stuff that's coming that's rubbish, and dangerous. Yeah. And if you've got a trusted platform where you can go and that the things that that we are integrating are verified, and clinically regulated and safe and all the rest of it, then that's going to be a really powerful place for us to be as we enter this kind of AI future that is, arriving now effectively.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So where can, so I'll put it in the show notes and stuff. Where can people sign up? Is anything they can...
it's just on the App Store. It's on the Google Play Store. Just download it. There's a 7-day free trial, so you can try it out, risk,
Awesome. There we go.
And if businesses, we're getting into businesses, so businesses are buying it now. I think, like Thames Valley Police, for example, police force, the chief inspector there, Stuart Codling, loves metal. Yeah. And he's like, oh, this is the first thing I can actually give to my men. They wouldn't use Calm or Headspace or, any of the other apps because they seem as too female, too hippie-ish. Yeah. But this is built for my men. So I want to buy it for my team. So they bought some subscriptions, and we're seeing that in the male skewing industries, construction, policing, finance, obviously. Stephen bought,
of course, yeah, he's
men at Bank of Ireland.
Yeah.
And all those things, really important. So, any businesses that want to connect with me, they can, find me. And my email is Neil, Neil @bmetal.com. Anybody who wants to, if you want to put my email on there, happy to.
I'll put the email in the show notes for sure.
So, but just for the man in the street, just look it up on your phone in your app store. It's there.
Awesome. I'll share the link right in the show notes for everyone anyway. So go check it out. 7-day free trial. Nothing to lose, everything to gain, right, Neil?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're charging for it. We charge about $50 a year or $60 a year. I think it's in the States, 50 quid in the UK. What's that?
It's a few coffees, isn't it, nowadays?
Yeah,
it's nothing.
Like less than a coffee a week. That's what we're talking about. But it's important that that you do make a financial commitment as well, because that's
your commitment level goes up. Money talks. Yeah, 100%. Your commitment level goes up.
Yeah, your commitment level goes up.
That's actually where people go wrong. That's where a lot of people go wrong. I see this happen time and time again. It's free this, free that. Actually, you can get free information. You can get everything online. You need to commit and actually commit to something.
Yeah. And making a small financial commitment, it's not a big one.
100%.
It's still a commitment. You're like, right, I paid for this. I'm going to bloody use it. And that will get you over that hurdle. So what happens with free stuff is you give somebody free stuff and they say, yeah, sounds great. And they never bother to use it. Yeah, it's proven.
100%.
Especially with men. Whereas you say, I want you to make a small financial commitment, and they do, then, oh, well, I've paid for that now, I've got to bloody use it. And that will get you over the hump, because the hardest time to form a habit is at the beginning, obviously.
100%.
That's when you're changing behavior. So that's when you want people to commit and say, oh, well, I've paid for it now, I'm going to bloody use it. 100%. And then that'll get them over those first few, the hardest time to use it is the beginning. Hardest time to change your behavior is at the beginning.
Yeah.
Start a new routine. It's at the beginning. So if you can get them, just as you'll know from personal training and gym work, you just get them over that first hurdle, and then they break through. So there's a real reason for kind of, we have to charge because we need to, keep it going.
You got to pull some of that money back, man. You'd be in a hole otherwise. And that's something we didn't go deep into either, right? But that's a whole nother conversation with purpose and fulfillment.
Yeah.
A lot of men are missing that in their life as well, right? And it seems like with what you're doing, like we're fortunate, for example, even what I do, I rated myself today, 5 out of 5, top score 5. My purpose and fulfillment and what I do is a 5, and that goes a long way as well. And what you're doing, you're building something bigger than you, like you said, right? Which is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's, I've swapped financial well-being for purpose, I'd say. And, ultimately it's more nourishing,
100%.
I mean, you need money to live for sure. But purpose helps you live longer.
100%. And it helps you get through those hard times a bit more, when things get tough.
Because when I'm struggling, because I'm thinking, I've got to raise some money, or this is a tough thing to do, or the tech issue, whatever it is, then I think of people like Stephen, who's on your show, or some of the other guys. You say, this has helped me in some of the toughest parts of my life, and I'm like, yeah, we're doing it for the right reasons.
Exactly. Makes it worth it.
Makes it worth it. Yeah.
Awesome stuff, my man. It was great to chat with you, man. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man. I'll share the app. I'll share your email and stuff in the show notes. Go check it out, everyone.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Martin.
Great to chat, my man.
Yeah, I loved it.